Folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So today we're taking a look at the Psyker again, and I've been playing around with this build for a while, and I thought it's just about done cooking to be able to chuck up on the channel. So let's jump in and take a look. So first of all, we are using the Blaze Force Greatsword because it's absolutely amazing. We're using the Mark 8 variant. It's just the variant that I prefer to play with. You can use either one depending on which one you prefer. Now, for the modifiers, we're going with damage, finesse, cleave damage, warp resistance, and defense is our dump. Because it's not great. Everything else gives us really nice things. Defense is just kind of eh. You don't want to be hit as a Psyker, so we're going to be dodging a lot more. Perk-wise, we're going for Unyielding to deal with boss damage and deal with Ogryns, and Carapace to deal with those pesky crushers. The blade also has quite a large inherent amount of penetration, lol, so we don't have to worry too much about unarmored and flak enemies. We can generally tear them to pieces, and also we have another option for that, which is our ranged weapon, which we'll get onto in a sec. So, blessing-wise, we're going to be taking Shred for plus 4% bonus critical chance on chained hit, stacking 5 times. That's going to give us a lovely lump sum of 20% crit while we're hacking away with this weapon. And we're going for Riposte. Plus 20% critical chance for 6 seconds on successful dodge. As I said before, we are utilizing dodge a hell of a lot more in this build. Because we're a Psyker. I don't want to go toe-to-toe with anything. So, dodging. This gives us a 40% crit bonus from this weapon. Mucho crit. And that will help us in the build, as you'll see in a moment. For our secondary weapon, we are using the infantry autogun, because it's still stupidly good, especially on the Psyker. And for the modifiers, we're going with damage, ammo, stopping power, and stability, and mobility we are dumping, because it doesn't really add that much to us whatsoever. I forgot to mention the mark. The mark we're using is the Vrax Mark 5. As for perks, we're going for Maniac and Flak, because Maniac's terrifying and Flak is the most prevalent armor type in the game. This will allow us to gun down basically anything, and in combination with the Greatsword, we can take on basically anything we need to, because we have the bonuses to basically everything. For the blessings, we are going for Dum Dum, plus 6% close range damage on repeated hits, stacks 5 times, and Fire Frenzy, which gains us 10% close damage for 3.5 seconds after killing an enemy at close range, stacking 5 times. This is a close to medium range weapon. You are not going to be sniping this, but we do have a little trick up our sleeves to deal with that. So this is the thing you're going to be pulling out as you close the distance and then going into your Greatsword. Next up, we've got the Curios. The first two are Toughness Curios with extra toughness, combat ability regeneration, and damage resistance gunners. Now, you can dump off the combat ability regeneration if you want to for toughness regen. Toughness regen does actually work quite well on a Psyker, but everyone gets angry at me when I use it, so up to you. Not your mum. Not going to put little notes in your lunchbox. Choose what you want. I use combat ability regeneration, and I sometimes use toughness regeneration. Both are valid options. And last but not least is the Stamina Curio, which gives us 3 max stamina, 5% toughness, 4% combat ability regeneration, and 20% damage resistance to gunners. Now, Psykers really should always take a Stamina Curio with kinetic deflection, okay? They really should. Since kinetic deflection's peril generation scales with relative stamina, they work hand in hand. It's not I have one, so don't take the other. If you take both of them, you will be better. Okay? I'm sick of hearing that argument that kinetic deflection doesn't mean you need to take stamina. It does. They work hand in hand. Just take it. And you should really be taking kinetic deflection as well. Anyway, let's jump into the build. So, first of all, metal. Critical hits replenish 5% toughness. Also grant 5% movement speed for 4 seconds, stacking 3 times. We have a lot of crit in this build, so that's going to be helping us farm back toughness. Then into Quietude, replenish 5% toughness for each 10% of perils quelled. We'll have ways of doing that down in the tree. And then Battle Meditation, 10% chance to quell 10% perils on kill. There you go. Then a toughness boost into Brain Rupture. This is going to be your long-range sniping capability. This is what you use when you cannot close the distance, or you have to kill that guy over there 200 yards away. or meters, depending on what system you prefer to use. And also remember, you don't have to be in line of sight. You just have to be able to tag them while in sight, and then you can hide behind a building. It's old school. It's cheap. It's easy. It's very effective. I know it's not as fancy as Smite or as Assail. It's just very good at what it does, which is bursting brains. Now, I have chosen to take Kinetic Flayer. All attacks against specials, elites, and monstrosities have a 10% chance to brain rupture the target. This cannot occur while at critical perils and has a cooldown of 15 seconds. Since they fiddled with it a bit, I think it's actually worth trying out. Even if you don't end up liking it, it's worth trying. Because it used to proc on everything. So you'd be fighting a group of crushers and a poxwalker randomly stumbles into you and you've brain bursted it. Now, it only procs on specials, elites, and monstrosities, which makes it a bit more targetable. I mean, if you still don't like it, I'll tell you where you can put the point later. Next up, we've got Peril Resistance for minus 5% peril generation into Psykinetics Aura, decreasing cooldown ability for you and your allies' incoherency by 5% on elite or special kill. Then we're taking Toughness Damage Reduction into Toughness Damage Reduction into Lightning Speed, plus 10% melee attack speed, into by Crack of Bone, melee weak spot kills, quell 5% peril, and reduced further peril generation by 20% for 4 seconds. Warp splitting. Sorry, my brain, I just couldn't read for a second. I think I may be having a stroke. Anyway, up to 100% cleave based on peril. This is basically throwing up wrath on the weapon for us. Then into Prescience, you and your allies' incoherency gain 5% critical hit chance. More crit, yum yum yum. Down into Toughness Damage Reduction into one with the Warp. Gain Toughness Damage reduction of 10 to 33% based on your current peril. You can probably see a theme throughout this build. Yum yum yum, Toughness Damage Reduction. Then into Empathic Evasion, critical hits make you count as dodging against ranged attacks for 1 second. Yum yum yum, lots of crit. And then down into Scryer's Gaze. Triggers Scryer's Gaze. When entering Scryer's Gaze, you gain 10% damage, plus 20% critical chance, and suppression immunity for every second inside Scryer's Gaze. You gain 1% damage, up to a maximum of plus 30%. This effect lingers for 10 seconds after leaving Scryer's Gaze. While in Gaze, you build up peril. Build up is temporarily slowed down by killing enemies. At 100% peril, Scryer's Gaze is ended. And then we're taking up Precognition. Weak spot kills count as 1 second spent in Scryer's Gaze. For each second spent in Scryer's Gaze, you now also gain 1% finesse damage to a maximum of 30%, which lingers for 10 seconds after leaving. I'm not saying Scryer's Gaze anymore. It's starting to sound weird in my mouth. Warp Unbound now also prevents overloading from perils of the warp during its lingering effect. So basically, you're not going to blow yourself up from using this anymore. And then we're going to be grabbing Critical Chance Boost, more crit, yum yum yum, into Health Boost, and then we're taking Warp Rider. Deal up to 20% damage, increases as your peril increases. Goes very nicely with this. And then down into Kinetic Deflection, well below critical perils. Blocking an attack causes you to gain peril instead of losing stamina. Gained peril is 25% of the blocked attack stamina cost. Then Tranquility through Slaughter, non-warp range critical hits, quell 4% peril. Pew pew pew. And then into Movement Speed, and then into True Aim. Landing 5 weak spot hits grants your next range attack a guaranteed critical hit. Can only trigger once per attack. And then into a Toughness Boost, and then we're taking Disrupt Destiny. Every second, enemies within 25 meters have a chance of being marked. Killing a marked enemy replenishes 10% toughness, grants 20% movement speed for 2.5 seconds, and adds a precision bonus for 4. Each precision bonus grants 1% damage, 2% critical damage, and 2.5% weak spot damage. Precision bonus stacks 15 times, and when the duration ends, 1 stack is removed and the duration is refreshed. So this won't all fall off at the same time. And then next up is Lingering Influence. Increases the duration of Disrupt Destiny from 4 seconds to 10. That gives you so much wiggle room when it comes to this ability. Now, I did promise you I'd show you where you can put Kinetic Flare if you don't want it. I personally do want it because it's hilarious. And then you can stick it in Cruel Fortune if you don't want it. Weak spot kills now grant 2 additional stacks of Disrupt Destiny. I like things going boom around me, so, you know, it's up to you. Like, neither one is going to break the build. It's just how you prefer to play. And honestly, this is one of the funnest Psyker builds I've played with for a very long time. It's a shame it doesn't involve a staff, but you can also do this. And I've never had more fun on the Psyker. And of course, your little auto gun goes brr. It's ridiculously effective on the Psyker. I mean, not against Carapace, obviously, but against Flak. And it would help if I could aim. But yes, Brain Burst. It's still very, very effective, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It is for grabbing a target that you cannot close the distance to. You only need to be in line of sight for a second to grab them, and even then it's a bit dodgy. You don't actually have to be quite in line of sight, but you kind of do. It's weird. But as soon as you have them, you can hide behind a pillar or a wall and quite happily burst their brain from the relative safety of your hidey hole. I mean, it's not great on big targets, but it's some damage that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. But there you go. Fun little Psyker build. I do hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please do like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It really does help us out, and I shall see you all for the next one. And one more thing, if you do have a build you'd love to see on the channel, please do let us know in the comments below, and I will get round to it as soon as I can. But yes, until next time, thank you very much, and see you later.